My name is Lina. I am 21 years old. When I look back, I remember the day my heart learned that love is not always enough. It is strange how one moment can change everything. I never thought my story would carry so much pain and so much hope at the same time. I grew up in a small village. Life was simple but not easy. My family was poor, yet we were happy with what we had. Our home was small but warm. My father worked hard in the fields. My mother cared for us with love. I often dreamed of a better life, but I never believed something big would ever happen to me. Then one day my life changed when I met Mark. I saw him first in the market. He was tall, with dark hair and a kind smile. He did not look like the other boys from the village. Later, I learned why. His family was rich. They lived in a large house near the hills. His parents owned many lands, and they had workers to manage them. I was surprised when Mark spoke to me. He asked me about my family, my dreams, and my favorite books. I felt shy, but he listened to me with care. From that day we met often. We walked by the river. We laughed under the trees. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was living inside a dream. You know, sometimes when we share stories like this, we feel less alone. That is why I tell mine to you now. If you enjoy listening, you can always support this channel by subscribing and sharing your thoughts. It means a lot to hear from people who care about stories like these. But let me continue, because what happened next was not a fairy tale. After some months, Mark told me that he loved me. His words made my heart race. I felt like I was flying. He wanted to marry me. I could not believe it. I was just a poor girl from the village. How could someone like him choose me? But he was serious. He said he loved my heart, not my money. He said he wanted a life with me, no matter what. I cried when I heard those words, because I loved him too. For many nights after, I dreamed about our wedding, our home, and the children we might have. But soon, I learned the truth. His parents did not want me. They thought I was not good enough for their son. His mother said he should marry someone rich. His father agreed. They told him, "If you marry Lina, we will not support you." My hands shook when I heard this. I did not want to be the reason Mark lost his family. I could not sleep. My heart was heavy. Mark told me not to worry. He said he loved me and nothing could change that. But deep inside, I was scared. I knew how much he respected his parents. I knew he wanted their blessing. Every time he left my side, I wondered if he would come back. I tried to be strong, but at night, when I was alone, I cried quietly into my pillow. I prayed for a miracle, but I also feared the worst. My own parents were worried too. They loved me, but they also feared the pain that was coming. My mother told me, "Lina, you are our joy. We want you to be happy. But maybe it is better to let Mark go." Her words cut me deeply. I wanted to believe that love could win, but I also felt the weight of the truth. The days grew heavy. Mark tried again and again to convince his parents. He spoke with kindness, but they did not change. Their hearts were closed. He told me not to give up. He said we would find a way. But I saw the sadness in his eyes. I knew he was hurting too. We were both trapped between love and duty, between dreams and reality. And then came the night when everything broke. I looked into Mark's eyes and told him what I had feared from the start. "I love you, but maybe it is better if we do not marry. I do not want to make your life hard." His face fell. His eyes filled with tears. He said, "I cannot live without you, Lina. But I understand. In that moment, my world shattered. We held each other and cried, knowing that love was not enough. We promised to stay friends. We promised to always support each other. But our hearts were broken. I walked home that night with empty hands and a heavy heart. The stars above looked cold, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. After that night, my world was never the same. I woke up in the morning and everything around me looked different. The sun still rose, the birds still sang, and the village still moved with life. But inside me, something was broken. I tried to smile for my family, but they saw the sadness in my eyes. My mother touched my face gently and whispered that I would heal with time. But I did not believe her. Love like that does not just disappear. It stays in your chest, heavy like a stone, and it follows you everywhere you go. Mark and I still met sometimes. We told each other that we would stay friends, but every meeting was full of unspoken words. When I looked at him, I saw the man I loved, but I also saw the wall between us. He tried to make me laugh, and sometimes I did, but when I went home at night, I cried again. I wanted to be strong, but I felt weak. I wanted to move forward, but my heart pulled me back to him. The village people began to whisper. They had seen us together for months. They had seen our love. Now they saw the silence between us. Some people said it was because I was poor. Some said his parents were too proud. Others said maybe it was never true love. I hated those words. I knew our love was real, but I also knew that love can suffer when the world does not accept it. Their whispers cut me deeply, but I kept walking with my head high. Mark, too, carried his pain. I could see it in his face. He worked with his family in their big house, and he helped manage their lands. To others, he looked strong and successful, but when he came to see me, his smile was weak. He told me again and again that he loved me, that he wished things were different, but his voice carried sorrow. He was a man divided. He wanted to make me happy, but he could not fight forever against his parents. Their power over him was strong. One evening, he came to my home with tears in his eyes. He said he had argued with his parents again. He told them he wanted to marry me, but they shouted at him. His father said, "If you marry her, you will no longer be my son." His mother said, "You will lose everything we have given you." I sat in silence as he told me this. My chest hurt. I could not imagine how much pain he carried. Yet part of me also felt guilty, because I did not want him to lose his family for me. I loved him too much to see him torn apart. I told him again that maybe it was better if we stopped, but he refused. He held my hands tightly and said, "No, Lina, you are my heart. If I lose you, I lose myself." His words made me cry. I wanted to believe them, but deep inside I was afraid. How long could he fight? How long could we stand against the anger of his family? Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Life in the village went on, but for me, time felt slow. My days were full of work. I helped my mother in the house and cared for my younger brother. I cooked, cleaned, and went to the market. On the outside, I lived like every other village girl. But on the inside, I carried a wound that did not heal. At night, when the world was quiet, I often sat by the window and looked at the moon. I wondered if Mark was also looking at the same sky, thinking of me. One night, I received a letter. It was from Mark. He wrote that he could not stay any longer in the village. The fights with his parents had grown too heavy. He wrote that he would go to the city to work, to build his own life. He said he wanted to prove that he could stand without his parents and maybe one day return to me. I held that letter in my hands for a long time. My tears fell on the paper and the ink almost blurred. My heart was full of pride for his courage, but also full of fear that I might lose him forever. When he left, the village felt empty. The fields looked the same, but every place reminded me of him. The river where we walked, the market where we laughed, even the small path by the trees where he first held my hand. I carried his memory everywhere. I tried to be strong. I told myself he would write to me, and he did. His letters came every month. He told me about his work, about the new life in the city, about the people he met. But most of all, he told me that he missed me. He ended every letter with the same words: "I love you, Lina. Wait for me." I answered every letter. I told him about my life, about my family, about the changes in the village. But I also told him about my heart. I told him I missed him too, that I still loved him. Writing those letters became my only light in the darkness. Each one felt like a thread, tying us together even though we were far apart. Yet distance is heavy. Sometimes his letters came late, and I worried. Sometimes he did not write as much, and I feared he was moving on. My nights became full of thoughts and questions. Could our love survive this long? Silence? Could two hearts stay close while the world pulled them apart? I wanted to believe, but the doubt grew stronger as time passed. Still, I held on. I prayed every night that one day I would see him again. I prayed that his love was true. I told myself that if love was real, it would find a way no matter how far apart we were. And so I waited, with hope and with fear, for the day he would return. The seasons changed while I waited for Mark. Spring came with flowers, summer came with long, hot days, autumn brought yellow leaves, and winter covered the fields with cold silence. Each season carried his memory. When I saw flowers, I remembered how we once walked together by the river. When I heard the wind in the trees, I remembered his voice telling me his dreams. When the nights grew cold, I thought of the warmth of his hand in mine. Time passed slowly for me, but I never stopped waiting. His letters were the only thing that gave me strength. One morning, I woke up to find a letter that was different from the others. The handwriting was hurried, and I felt my heart beat faster as I opened it. In the letter, Mark wrote that he had saved enough money and had made a place for himself in the city. He said he was coming back to the village because he could no longer stay away from me. My hands shook as I read those words. Tears filled my eyes, but this time they were tears of hope. I had waited so long, and now my wait was over. The day he returned was clear and bright. I stood outside my house, nervous, my heart racing like it did the first time we met. Then I saw him walking down the road. He looked stronger, older, and more confident than before. But when he smiled at me, I saw the same boy I had loved from the beginning. I wanted to run to him, but my feet felt heavy. When he reached me, he simply took my hand, and in that moment, I felt the world fall away. All that mattered was that he was here again. We sat together that evening under the same tree where we once dreamed of our future. Mark told me about his life in the city. He worked very hard, often from sunrise until late at night, but he never gave up because he wanted to build a life for us. He had saved money, and now he felt ready to stand on his own without the help of his parents. I listened with pride, my heart full of love, but also full of fear. I asked him about his parents, and he lowered his eyes. He said they still did not accept me. They had told him again that if he chose me, he would lose them forever. I wanted to cry, but I stayed calm. I asked him what he wanted to do. He looked at me with steady eyes and said, "I want you, Lina. I want our life. I cannot let my parents decide my happiness. I have made my choice." His words lit a fire inside me. For years, I had dreamed of hearing those words, yet at the same time, I worried about the pain he would feel. Could he truly live without his family? Could love alone carry us through all the storms that would come? That night, I prayed again, like I had so many times before. I prayed for strength, for courage, and for peace in our hearts. The next morning, Mark came to my family's home. He sat with my parents, and he asked them for my hand. My father looked at him with serious eyes. He said, "Mark, we know you love our daughter. We also know the weight you carry because of your parents. We do not want Lina to live with endless pain. If you marry her, you must be ready to face everything. You must never turn away." Mark held his head high and promised that he would never leave me. His voice was strong, and I believed him with all my heart. My family agreed, and my heart felt light for the first time in many years. But I knew the road would not be easy. His parents did not bless us. They did not come to see us. Still, Mark and I decided to marry. We wanted a small wedding, simple but full of love. On the day of our wedding, the village gathered to celebrate with us. My mother dressed me in a plain white dress. My father held my hand as he walked me to the small church. My friends smiled, and my neighbors sang, but inside me there was both joy and sorrow. I wished his parents had been there. I wished they could see that love is stronger than pride. When Mark took my hand and promised to love me forever, I felt my heart open like never before. We had been through years of waiting, years of tears, and years of fear, but at last we were together. The people cheered for us, and I saw happiness in the faces around me. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe in our future. After the wedding, Mark and I moved to the city. Life there was different from the village. The streets were noisy, the houses were close together, and people were always busy. At first, I felt lost in the crowd, but Mark stood by me every step of the way. He found us a small home, and we filled it with our laughter and our hopes. We did not have much, but we had each other, and that was enough. I began to work in a small shop, while Mark worked in an office. Each evening, when he came home tired, I cooked for him, and we shared stories of our day. Life was not always easy. There were days when money was short, when work was hard, and when I missed my family back in the village. But each time I felt weak, Mark reminded me why we had chosen this path. He told me that love was not about riches or pride. Love was about standing together, even when the world tried to pull us apart. His words gave me strength, and I began to see our life not as a struggle, but as a journey we walked hand in hand. Months turned into years. We built a home full of love, and slowly our dreams grew bigger. I wanted children, and Mark agreed. We began to talk about the kind of parents we would be. We promised to raise our children with love, with kindness, and with respect for others, no matter their wealth or status. We promised that we would never make them suffer the way we had suffered. At night, when we lay side by side, I sometimes asked him if he missed his parents. His eyes grew sad, and he said yes, he missed them. But then he held me close and said, "Even if I lost them, I found you. You are my home now." His words filled me with both happiness and pain, because I knew love always comes with sacrifice. But I also knew that our love was real, and real love was worth every cost. Years passed, and life with Mark grew into something strong and steady. We faced many hard days, but also many days of joy. Our small home in the city became full of laughter and warmth. We learned to live with little and to find happiness in simple things. Mark often told me that he did not need wealth or power, only my smile and the peace of our evenings together. I believed him, and I felt blessed to share my life with him. After 2 years of marriage, we welcomed our first child, a little girl with soft brown hair and bright eyes. We named her Anna. Holding her in my arms, I felt a kind of love I had never known before. I watched Mark hold her too, his hands careful, his eyes full of tears, and I knew he was proud. For the first time, we were not just husband and wife. We were a family. Every day after that was filled with her laughter, her cries, and the small steps of her growth. When Anna was 2 years old, we had another child, a boy we named David. He was loud and full of energy, and he filled the house with his playful spirit. With 2 children, our home became even busier, but it also became richer with love. I often thought of my parents back in the village, and I knew they would be proud of me. Sometimes I wrote them letters, telling them about the children and the life we were building. When we visited the village, they held Anna and David with joy, their eyes shining as they saw the future we had created. But even as our family grew, there was always a shadow that followed us. Mark still carried the pain of being apart from his parents. Sometimes at night, I saw him sit quietly, lost in thought. I asked him what was on his mind, and he said he wondered if his parents ever thought of him, if they missed him, or if they had truly erased him from their hearts. I tried to comfort him, but I knew the wound was deep. No matter how much love we shared, he still felt the loss of his family. One day, when Anna was 5 and David was 3, we received unexpected news. A man from the village came to the city and brought a letter. It was from Mark's mother. My hand shook as I read it aloud. She wrote that his father was sick, very sick, and that they wanted to see him. She asked him to come home. Mark was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Lina, I must go." His voice carried fear, but also hope. We traveled together to the village. My heart beat fast as we walked to the big house I had once only seen from far away. I held Anna's hand, while Mark carried David in his arms. When we entered, his mother looked older, her face lined with time, her eyes tired but soft. She looked at me for a long moment, then at the children, and her eyes filled with tears. His father lay in bed, weak and pale, but when he saw Mark, he smiled faintly. Mark knelt by his father's side and held his hand. His father whispered that he was sorry. He said that pride had blinded him and that he had been wrong to refuse our love. He said he wanted to see peace before he closed his eyes forever. I stood there quietly, my heart heavy with emotions. His mother came to me then. She touched Anna's face, then David's, and finally looked into my eyes. She said softly, "You gave my son happiness." For that, I thank you. Tears fell from my eyes as I heard her words. Years of pain, years of rejection, years of being unwanted. All of it began to melt away in that moment. I knew we could not erase the past, but I also knew that forgiveness had entered the room. Mark held my hand tightly, and I felt his relief. For the first time, we were not alone. His parents had finally opened their hearts. His father passed away weeks later, but he left in peace, knowing his family was whole again. His mother grew close to us after that. She visited the city often and played with her grandchildren. She even told me one day that she was wrong to judge me by my poverty and that true wealth was in love. Those words healed wounds that had lived in me for so long. As the years continued, our children grew and our family became stronger. Anna went to school and loved to read, just like I once did. David loved to run and climb, his laughter filling every corner of our home. Mark and I grew older, but we also grew closer. We still had struggles, but we faced them together, and that made all the difference. Sometimes, when I sat in the quiet of the night, I thought back to the girl I once was. The poor village girl who dreamed by the river, who cried in the dark, who almost gave up on love. I thought of the boy who chose me even when the world stood against us. We had walked through storms, we had faced rejection, and yet we had built a life filled with love. That was our true victory. Now, as I look at our children and see them running through the garden, I know that love is never wasted. Even when it hurts, even when it feels impossible, true love finds a way. Mark once told me that I was his home, and I now understand what he meant. Home is not a place or a house or land. Home is the heart of the person who stands with you through everything. And that is what we gave each other. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know one thing with certainty. The world once told us we could not be together. His parents once hated me and tried to break us apart. But today, as I stand with my husband, my children, and my family, I know that love won. And when love wins, everything else fades away.